This is Joseph Victorious once again with another Idaho murder Modus Operandi. Which, if you don't know what that means, based on Latin, describes the individual or group's habitual way of operating, which represents a discernible pattern. In other words, it's used to describe criminal behavior and is often used by professionals to prevent future crimes. Kind of reminds me of the Minority Report. So, you gotta excuse me, it's very late. My voice is not as crispy as usual, but I have a lot of things to say. And I've been assessing everything that's been happening, trying to put the pieces together, trying to connect dots to see patterns, which I'm pretty good at. And I have a few thoughts to say on the matter. Some interesting things that have occurred in the past week. So, first of all, I'll get this out of the way. There is a online profile. I believe it's some guy named Papa Roger. I'll just say this. I do find it interesting that, number one, he stopped posting after the murders. After he was Bryan was arrested, rather, and two, that he mentioned the scabbard, as I call it, or the sheath of the knife. Let me say that I read what he posted. I don't think it's as clear as people make it out to be, saying that he knew. Basically, it's like this. If the weapon that was used left puncture wounds that could be measured by forensics, they can determine based on that approximately what kind of weapon was used, by the edge, the dimensions, etc. This Papa Roger guy was simply saying that they could also determine the type of weapon if by the sheath, because it would have the perfect fit for the weapon, so they could at least tell the dimensions, height, width, etc. So that's all it really means. He said that they must have the sheath. It's just an educated guess, an eerie one, but that's all I have to say about that. If it is him, well, we're going to find out in the future when he presents his defense. But I should say that I want everybody to know that I do assessments based on my deductive skills, pattern recognition, and foundations in cybersecurity. As I mentioned before, there are various methodologies, including math probabilities, algorithms, data analytics, metrics, etc. So understand that these, Bryan is innocent until proven guilty. I found it interesting that the lawyer, who's been all over YouTube, propping up his image, kudos to him. Kudos to him. He did mention something interesting, which is basically Well, let me just say this. Like I said, he alluded to the fact of the defense can come up with various angles, various scenarios. Okay. Um, and he hasn't been convicted yet. I've put speculative and analytical assessments, theories, hypotheticals, etc. But the man has not been convicted. So I get upset when I see a lot of people speaking in absolutes when you don't even know the other side of the story. There's always another side of the story. Okay? Always. And, you gotta let the man defend himself. You don't know what happened. You don't know all the details. Case in point, remember that you should know and should remember this as a teaching lesson for life. 150 approximate number of people were at a party 24 hours before the murders at the same house at 1122. Okay, Kings Road, or whatever the road's name is called. 150 people. Now, I did put in my previous videos that if there was a party, he could always come up with some excuse: drugs, business, sex, the usual that goes on, especially with the youth. But 150 people. I don't care how good forensics in Idaho PD, which has made several mistakes, by the way, and I took a picture of that earlier. I will go over that at some point. One of the mistakes was saying that the car was from a earlier year. Another mistake was that the time of the murders were originally between 2 and 3, then later changed to 4 and some, and et cetera, et cetera. But I don't care how good they claim to be. And like I said, I don't like the chief guy, whatever his name is, the bald guy that looks like a bald Santa. I think he's a little bit too cocky for my taste. He hasn't proven anything yet. But and I don't care how good the FBI is. 150 people, good luck trying to sort through that evidence. That's definitely going to be used in court. I'll be shocked and appalled at the same time if the defense doesn't use that in court. So, based on, like I said, the more data you can compile, the more you can extrapolate, and the more patterns that you can, draw. So, based on that piece of evidence, the 150 people at the party 24 hours prior, based on the 8-hour time gap that the surviving victims, or nearly victims, failed to call police, whatever reason the case may be, and based on the fact that there's several loopholes here. There's information that needs to be still filled into the blanks, but with these two components, the 8-hour gap, which I said I personally would not convict somebody knowing that there was an 8-hour time gap, or time lost. Okay. Anything can happen, and now 150 people were at the house or around the house 24 hours prior. And why wasn't this in the news? Now, the whole party thing was speculated, but nobody ever said anything about the 24 hours and 150 people in the house. Nobody said anything. It wasn't in the news. As far as I know, I didn't hear it. I didn't hear anything about it. All I heard was, you know, speculations towards parties. And, anybody would think that it's a party town, it's a college town. But I only heard about it today because it was in a podcast by, I forgot the name of it, but, there's many of them out there on YouTube. But it was a live chat. And I kept saying, where did you hear this? Where did you hear this? And the moderator actually called out my YouTube dark code by name. I'm like, oh, I thought this was already past recording. But anyways, she said it was in the Dateline. So I downloaded the Dateline. College Town Murders, I believe was the name of it. Correct me if I'm wrong. Downloaded the app, watched it. I had to go through about 20 annoying commercials about how teachers were the victims in the pandemic. No, they were not. And they were not the heroes either. The heroes were the people working in hospitals. Okay. I'm not going to go too much into that, but like I said, it was quite annoying. I have to repeatedly hear that political nonsense from the left. But anyways, but I finally was able to confirm that it's true, according to the sources. 150 people. That's also where I got the information from the Papa Rogers and what he actually said in the text. I got a screenshot of it. And like I said, he was just alluding to the dimensions that the sheath would give about the weapon, which would also be similar to what the body injuries would also give about the dimensions of the weapon. So, going back to the point that I was trying to make is basically, Bryan's got a pretty good chance at the very least. Definitely one juror I don't think will convict him. Like I said, I wouldn't do it based on the 8-hour time gap. Now there's 150 people in that party 24 hours the night before. Anything could have happened. Now I definitely would not convict him if I was a juror. Hopefully they got non-biased jurors. And like I said, they may charge him with stalking, even though it wasn't in the charges. They could always go back and retry him for that, or in the civil court or something like that. For a lot of people who don't know about technology, the ins and outs, especially GPS, like I said, nobody has mentioned this. I'm like the only one that has mentioned it because I know of it. Wi-Fi antennas. You could have used some device to connect. And so this whole theory about he was really close to the house, not necessarily. Could have been 2,000 feet away using a Wi-Fi antenna, some booster. Okay. So yeah, like there's a lot of things about the technological things that were involved here. Okay, but anyways, I still haven't heard whether or not Bryan was in the using any kind of apps such as Uber, Lyft, or DoorDash, et cetera, et cetera. That could also give him an alibi, at least in the as far as a reason why he was in the area. And it's true. The GPSs aren't exactly accurate. The way that the towers work, the way that communication devices work, not always 100% accurate. So I don't think that will come to be much of a factor if the defense brings in top experts that can break it down in a way that the jury can understand. Because, it looks like a nice rosy painted picture, but rosy perhaps is not the right word to use. But the prosecution paints a grim picture but it's the finer details that are gonna, as usual, make or break this trial. So we'll see what happens there. Now, let's see here. What else was I gonna mention? Um, the modus operandi. Okay. I think it's not that difficult now to narrow down the uh, type of character that Bryan is, at least now, and what positive motives he would have to have committed this. And I would say this, okay, as I mentioned in previous videos, uh, women are not as innocent as everybody makes them out to be. They make the best assassins. That's not a theory. That is based on empirical historical evidence. Uh, they tend to have a more cold-blooded nature, um, and they are quite schemy and sly. And if you take a look at one of the videos from Kaylee in the previous visits by cops for making too much noise, you'll see that she's actually quite sharp, the way that she's able to go from playing with her dog on TikTok to being all serious. And also from the Dateline report, one of the girls had IT experience. I wonder what kind of IT experience. Is it in my field, cybersecurity? Is it just administrative? Is it has to do with risk assessment? I wonder. I'm curious. But going back, okay. Like I said, personally, from experience and from any other resources, I've known that it's not just being rejected, okay? It's being abused psychologically. It's years of somebody being told, you're ugly, you're fat, you're weird. Even in this Dateline video, the one scene where I try not to laugh because, I have like a twisted sense of humor sometimes, but the one girl was describing Bryan's looking at her, like every time she looked and turned to him, he was looking at her, and I kind of pictured like that black cat from the Clocks, like with the eyeballs moving, just the eyeballs moving, but not the head. And then it got me to thinking a little bit about one of my. I'll just say this: it's my top anime show of all time. It's called Death Note. I'm sure that many of you have heard of it. And basically, it's gonna seem kind of strange, but Bryan kind of reminds me a lot of Kira. Now, in the anime Kira, and the anime Death Note with Kira as the antagonist, sort of protagonist, antagonist, depends on which side you support. He acts a lot like the way Bryan is acting now. A lot of people are saying he's scared and all this. I don't see the fear. You can usually tell when somebody's afraid by the way they act, the way they speak, the sound of their voice. I've recently made a comment about voices because somebody was pretending to be Bryan on the radio of some kind. I analyzed that video, by the way, and it's not the person. It's not the same guy. You can tell because the guy had a little bit of a. I'm speaking with my nose closed like this. And he also Seemed like he was on something, either drugs or had mental illness. That was quite clear. You can pick it up in the tone of voice. There are a lot of distinctions between that guy and Bryan's voice. It's not the same guy. And if it was Bryan, then he was probably trying to purposely disguise his voice and doing a good job of it. But not such a good job because, if you wanted to complete contracts, you could have gone way deeper or used some voice device. So again, average job should be the better word as best. I don't think it was Bryan. And like I said, if it was him, he would have tried to done a poor disguise. I don't think so. So that discounts that, and that discounts, like I said, the Puppy Rogers. Who knows? We'll see. It is suspicious, but anyways, getting back to what I was saying. Look, I don't know what the heck happened to Bryan as far as like what girls told him. We only got bits and pieces of people that knew him from the past and the way that they say people talked about him. But this thing can trigger a person. Okay, like I said in my previous videos, it's an unsub. You can get triggered by past trauma. Traumatic experiences. And if he was abused, if he was demeaned, if they bashed him, they chased him, maybe some girl said he smelled, or he's too fat, or they'll never, he'll never find a girlfriend, you'll never be accepted. Who knows? And it's one thing for a few girls to say that. Over time, it's how many did it? 50, 100, 200? Did Kaylee do it? Did Kaylee do it at the restaurant? Did Kaylee do it online? Apparently, he was trying to instant message someone. I'm still gonna go with Kaylee, by the way, because she, according to the forensics, one of the victims was stabbed more than the others, based on what's been read up on, and her father. I think it's Kaylee, and I think she was the one that I had to, if I had to guess, an educated guess in probabilities 1 out of 4, you connect the additional efforts in stabbing the victim. I would highly speculate that it's her. So like I said, what could she have said to him if they did meet in person? Or it could be, it could be many things. Maybe she looks like somebody that he hated, somebody that rejected him, some love interest. Just because people claim they never really saw him with anybody, or at least dating anybody, like girlfriend or something, you don't know. You don't know. He could have had a girlfriend. Maybe she abused him or cheated on him. And there's other things that I don't really want to go too much into, but it could be issues about his manhood, stuff like that. I mean, I was watching The Red Dragon 2 days ago. The reason I watched the movie again, not only because I'm a big fan of the Hannibal movies, but because somebody had mentioned in one of the posts that they were wondering if the victims were aligned next to the mirrors. And I said, hey, that reminds me of The Red Dragon. And the reason I mentioned this is because in The Red Dragon, Deeds, who's the Red Dragon, he he wrote a whole a tomb, a grimoire, and basically put his horrifying life story about his grandmother abusing him and all kinds of stuff in there. What kind of abuse did he receive by his parents? And what kind of abuse did he receive by people? I mean, hope and there's a mention in there about his, uh, about the like cutting off the poor kid's penis because he wetted his bed. I mean, then that got me to thinking, wonder if they made fun of, somebody stripped him down naked. Maybe they made fun of his member. Who knows? I mean, these kind of things can traumatize a kid. Think about it. Imagine if you're a kid or you're a teenager and it's already a wild ride. I remember my teenage years. Man, I was like, you know, um, what kind of abuse did this guy receive, man? But I also see parallels to the transformation. Um, on the one hand, he was, didn't seem to be a secure, a secure kid. He had insecurities, fat, and like I said, rejected by many. And on the other, he seems to be confident and wanted to prove his superiority. Like I said, there are parallels to the Red Dragon, also parallels to Death Note, the anime, and Kira. And it's just, like I said, it got me thinking. I looked at the core videos and see him walking around. He's very serious. He doesn't really move his head. It's almost like he can, make a lot of calculations without showing signs that he's even making calculations. I'm able to do that. Um, but I do got a lot of mannerisms, and so, unless I was purposely trying to hide them, I wouldn't. Maybe that's just the way he is, or maybe he's trying to hide them. But yeah, it's interesting. I recommend that you guys watch the Red Dragon and Kira and the show Death Note, the anime, to see the correlations and the parallels that I'm trying to, you know, make relative here. So, going back to the modus operandi, like I said, who knows what triggered him? Who knows what could have possibly triggered him? Again, innocent to proven guilty, but it's like I said, who knows? And it's also important to mention that the separating the trauma from the past, that, as the saying goes, choice is destiny. He made the choice to become a criminal, not only psychologist, but criminologist, to pursue the research into crimes and serial killers and all that. So the prosecution will have a difficult time trying to prove anything about his inquiries, since Bryan could always go back and say, well, that's what I was studying. So obviously I would have to look at various resources. And he actually would have quite a bit of range, especially online if he did that. But it's going to be interesting how he's going to defend that he was messaging, like I said, Kaylee through instant messaging, even though from what I read, she didn't reply back to him. But again, that doesn't necessarily mean that they never spoke and they never met, or he didn't meet anybody else, either directly or indirectly through a friend of a friend. Maybe at the party 24 hours before the murders. Again, 150 people. Like I said, I wouldn't convict. I just wouldn't. Like, anything could have happened. Anything could have happened. And I said that, I just can't believe it. I said that in one of my videos earlier, a few weeks ago. And, there was a party, and but I was thinking, okay, a party of maybe 20 people, 30 people, 150 people. That's 150 people. Yeah. And kind of falling asleep here because it's late, and but I wanted to get these thoughts out. So I will make future videos. I encourage everybody to analyze and do more research. I will make some final comments here. I do find it interesting that there's another person, a male, former military, initials BLK, similar to BK. That's kind of eerie. The same guy that Bryan and his father were talking about in the videos. The SWAT team in Pullman came in, and I think they either killed him or he shot himself with a shotgun. Either way, there's some kind of rumor through the internet rumorvilles that this guy somehow knew Bryan. That remains to be seen, but I do find it interesting that the police have not ruled that out, at least not publicly, as far as I know. I try to do some Google searches with some parameters to narrow down the searches, and I didn't see anything, any rebuttal, any refutals by police. I'm curious as to the whereabouts of, I'll call him BLK. I don't have his name in front of me, but BLK, where were you the night of the Idaho murders? Do you have an alibi? Are you on video? I'm curious about that. If anybody can please answer that in the comments, or if, But so far, nobody has said anything, and the cops have not said anything, so I find it kind of weird. Also, if it's true, I heard also that not only does he live close to Bryan, but there's the whole university security guard. Bryan used to be a security guard connection. There's the level 2 crime lab from the FBI, which somebody had posted in one of my videos that I appreciate the comments. Talking about over 60 FBI agents. I made several speculations and theories about that. Perhaps they were worried about the level 2 crime lab being compromised as far as its security measures. Perhaps they were there for other reasons. Maybe the family has some political clout. Maybe the governor, from what I read, or the mayor, didn't want any negative attention. Maybe, I know that law enforcement does collaborate with FBI in certain cases, special requests, or otherwise. However, that is a lot of people, a lot of resources spent for this case, considering that, there's been plenty of other murders and killings all around the country, as happens every year, every day. But you don't hear much about that. But I do find it interesting. There's a lot of correlations and interconnections. They intertwine together. Again, the security guy, crime lab, he had access. Bryan didn't, but could he have gotten access from him? When Bryan's GPS put him further south after the murders, in the further southern area, apparently the BLK guy, his family lived there. So there's a connection there from what I read. I don't know if it's true. Hasn't been verified yet. Like I said, nobody has said anything. The police haven't said anything about it. I may attempt to call the police station maybe tomorrow and try to ask them if they have cleared the guy for the Idaho murders. And there's another video where somebody tries to say, make a connection that the police may have been trying to cover that up. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe the guy was a suspect also, the BLK guy. It is interesting. Until that's ruled out, we don't know. We'll see the one that sold the knife to Bryan, or Was he with Bryan? Who knows? Yet to be determined, but I thought to mention that because I thought it was interesting. And yeah, this is pretty much a lot of the things that I read up on and that I made some connections. But like I said, it's going to be a lot more difficult now to convict Bryan with the 8-hour time gap, adding the 150 party goers that were at the house 24 hours prior. Remember, it's 24 hours. I'm not talking about a week. It's 24 hours. Also, what kind of activities were going on? Were there any drugs? Why didn't the roommates call police? Were they on drugs? Were they drunk? That would go towards credibility. There's a credibility aspect here. I'm curious to know what Bryan's defense would be, but if I had to guess, they definitely will use the 8-hour time gap and the 150 party goer defense. Remember, all they need is just one juror. And lastly, I'm not a legal expert when it comes to the technical aspects of juries and jurors and all that, but comment below and I'll try to find out. I've asked this question, but nobody has answered it, and it may vary by state. But I'm curious to know, like, how many jurors need to vote or say no, he's not guilty for him to be acquitted. A mistrial. The hung jury aspect of all of it, all these things, and how many jurors are there going to be? Is it 12? Is it 10? Is it the same by every state? I don't know. I'm going to find out. Stay tuned. We'll get to the bottom of that in a future video. But oh yes, of course. And real quick, how could I forget this? I'll say this. There was some unsealed information about what they found in Cooper's apartment, and just so everybody knows, from a cybersecurity point of view, the Fire Stick can be used as not only for viewing movies, but also as a USB. Can be used for drive. Bryan also had, I forgot to mention this, cloud IT knowledge. And so if you combine that and also the fact that he most likely knew what encryption was, it's one of the basic things. If he knew how to encrypt information, I also haven't read this much in the comments or anywhere else. People don't understand that he could have encrypted things in his laptop, which they say they found at his Pennsylvania home, or his computer, which they found at his dorm or his room apartment. You could have encrypted things. Plus, there's plenty of different cloud services where you can store things. I'm pretty sure some of them are encrypted more than they're already encrypted, meaning information's online in these companies are encrypted, but there should be more options for further encryption levels. And end to end, you don't know what kind of encryption he may have put on any of the information. If he's smart, obviously possibly careless by leaving the sheath, but if he's smart, he would have encrypted and never actually left any data on his laptop or anywhere else. So I'm wondering, and that includes the Fire Stick, by the way. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see what they find. How good would the forensics people be? I wonder if they sent it to the FBI. They probably have better tech and specialist and technology than the regular law enforcement as far as trying to find out any digital evidence and we'll see what they find out. But yeah, he could have used encryption, cloud. Could have been in some third party in some other country where the U.S. will need special privileges to access it. They may not cooperate. He could have gone to the dark net. And the dark net, you could also, hide information, encrypt information, etc., etc., etc. And of course, he could have always, put all the information into one storage space and hid it away somewhere where they'll probably never find it if he was smart enough to know where to hide it. So we don't know. And as far as the hairs go, those hairs could be from anyone or anything. I wouldn't put too much credibility in that. There's been many jokes and puns about hairs. If you all recall the movie, one of my favorite movies, Face Off, there's a scene where they bring in the Nicolas Cage's friend, drug dealer friend, for questioning, and then they play good cop, bad cop, and say, "Oh, we found a hair in your," the guy's like laughing, like, "A hair? Really? I haven't heard that one before." But then again, it could be the doggy's hair, from the rooms. You don't know. We don't know. So I'm not discounting it altogether, but I just the whole hair thing. I wouldn't put too much into it. I heard somewhere about follicles, having to have a follicle for it to DNA. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I heard. So I leave you with those tidbits and this data. Interesting. Bryan's modus operandi, his character before, his character after, and the kind of abuse he may have received. What could have triggered him? The pent up rage. And please remember, nobody's innocent until they're proven innocent, and nobody's guilty until they're proven guilty. Perhaps in court it's different, but remember, don't think that somebody's innocent just because they're a woman. Like I said, they make the best assassins. This is not trying to bash women. I'm just stating the facts here. And like I said, from personal experience, most people who have done me dirty in my life have been women, several of them. It is what it is. I'm not discounting the possibility of a collaborator or a several, and we don't know the involvement and if any, of Bryan and the victims or the roommates, or their associates. As I said in previous videos, stay tuned for more. And once again, this is Joseph Victorious, cybersecurity expert, and have a wonderful weekend. Let's talk later. Bye.